So, like last year where we did a little tease, can't just leave without teasing a little bit more. So let's have a quick look at just some, emphasis on some, of the vehicles that we're working on in the next 12 months.
So I just wanted to say, note that John Cruz said working on. That is something they actually emphasized in that comment. I'm going to pull on a few members of the Carnival here, and we're going to go through this sort of side scroll where we're actually talking about all the ships they talked about in that side scroll, just kind of our thoughts. Some of them are kind of obvious, some of them kind of aren't. Full disclosure, we did this on Friday, got together, recorded the whole thing, had a lot of really interesting talks, a lot of interesting theories were brought up that I hadn't thought of, which is kind of cool. But it turns out that instead of clicking record in OBS, I clicked start streaming. And since I hadn't set up a stream, it didn't do anything. And so we're going to do it again now. So we'll try to keep the spoilers to a minimum on some of the people's guesses. But I am nothing if not a consummate professional. Damn. Okay, so first vehicle up, we got the Argo CSV-FM. I don't think there's a lot of debate about this one. This is the builder version of the CSV-SM, which is this guy right here, carries 4 SEU. The builder version, the FM, also carries 4 SEU and has 2 medium drones. Which is interesting. So I'm thinking that has to be a typo on the slide because it's got 2 medium drones and it carries 4 SEU. It just seems like such an obvious upgrade over the SM that there's no reason why you'd ever take the SM if it carries the same amount of cargo and has 2 medium drones. So somewhere there's a mistake. Either that or it's that much better. I'm wondering if they're considering the construction materials that the drones are picking up as part of its SEU total, but yeah, I'm not sure about that one, but kind of a must buy for anyone that's going to be buying these things. But I think we're going to see base building probably a little sooner than later. Not for 4.0 or not by the end of the year, but if you were going to say by March, I wouldn't be shocked. What are your guys' thoughts on the CSV or FM, the builder mode?
I think it will be a really useful little base builder. I kind of think it kind of turns the game into almost like an RTS where each player gets in and then is the builder in your RTS game, and so you'll have a lot of these actually working together. In fact, I don't think, given the cargo capacity and the fact that it's running medium drones, which feels like it's going to be consuming a lot of materials, that these are ever really meant to be solo use. I think you're going to be using the grav cart if you just want to build your little home away from home. But you'll have multiple of these in org bases or, small group bases, base operations running around building stuff all over the place.
That makes sense.
As for the cargo thing,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's probably a typo. I'd be really surprised if this can take 4 SCU in addition to its drones. But really, it highlights the problem with the SM. And we need to free the SM. I mean, a 4 SEU cargo container has the same footprint as an 8 SEU cargo container, and the SM's a flatbed, so they should very easily be able to take an 8 SEU box.
Yeah. So the 8 SEU box is the cube, so it would make sense that a cube could fit on this. Just had another thought. Maybe it has... maybe the drones are just like a module that you put on the back of the thing that take up 4 SEU. So it just like a part that you can put on the back of this that fit in that flatbed. That like a medium drone takes up 2 SCU, and this thing can do it. Although then you can slap down a medium drone anywhere there's 2 SCU. So maybe it isn't that.
You'd want to be careful with that. I guess I could see this being modular, and it's CSV support module and fabrication module, something like that. It would make sense following sort of the Argo. Why can I suddenly not think of the little Argo ship?
Oh, the MPUV.
MPUV. It could be following the MPUV model.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah,
It might just be a simple. It might just be a difference in cost, to be honest. You know, the regular truck variant. I don't know what it costs in game right now. Let's just say it costs 50,000 AUEC, and then this one comes out. It might cost 90,000 AUEC, and that would be enough of a difference to. Well, if you don't need the drones, you would just pick up the base model.
How much for my heated seats?
Yeah, right. And you got to have the heated seats. That's important. Yeah, well, I mean, you were saying before that these would be kind of like the SCV unit in StarCraft, where you just have a bunch of these tooling around and building things. I mean, I'd be down with that idea. It does kind of seem like they'll be ubiquitous to building no matter what. The one thing that I'm kind of surprised by, and I said this before, was the fact that it has medium drones is throwing off my sense for scale of what small and medium drones are, because in my head, a medium drone would be basically that whole back. It would be like, quote unquote, 4 SCU. But in this case, it's looking like medium drones will be kind of small. And then it kind of brings up the question of what would a small drone build versus a medium one. This one has 2 mediums, so it can build small things very quickly. So what is that sled actually going to be building? Is it going to be building the sort of outpost station that was shown off in the demo, or is that actually more of a medium asset and the small assets are something else, like barrels or little power units or something? That'll be kind of interesting how they swing it.
I hope they have learned that they need to be more careful than that. If the buildings they showed off building with the grav cart can't be built by the grav cart, people are going to be pretty upset.
That's a good point. We're gonna get to one of those in just a minute, but first we've got this next one. Anyone else have anything else to say on the CSV?
The last thing I'll say is just that I think it gets sort of under discussed that like the idea that you'll have a BLD or you'll have a Pioneer and that'll build all your bases and the whole base, right? But we saw that bases can get really big and really expansive, and I think it's gonna take a lot if you're trying to build it in any reasonable amount of time. I think it's going to take a lot of different builders to put together a big org base.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it also begs the question of, if you have 10 of these things, that's 20 medium drones. Could 20 medium drones build something large, or are they going to limit the drones to, if it's a medium drone, it can only build medium and smaller buildings, but the more drones you have, it speeds up the time? Or if you have a whole bunch of them, could you build something bigger? Be interesting to sort of see how they work all this out, but I have a feeling, hopefully, that we'll be getting this sooner than later. But we'll find out. We'll be finding out probably at IAE. I would assume they're going to be dropping a version of this in concept at least, but maybe not, with 4.0 probably being a little bit delayed here. Anyone else have anything else to say about this guy?
No, I think we've gone on long enough.
So next up, my bet on this thing originally was that it was an APC, just because it looks a lot like the M113, which was a Vietnam era, maybe Korean War era APC. You can sort of see that it's not very big from this picture. But But I have been convinced otherwise by these guys that it might be something else. So let's hear you guys' theory on this. I think it's clearly tracked. It's got kind of a weird back off of here, but the metrics just don't seem right for an APC after we talked about it. It looks Ursa size. So given the metrics in Star Citizen, you're probably looking at it being able to carry 4 extra people, maybe. So let's hear your theories on what you guys think this thing is.
Yeah, Ursa size at biggest is what it looks like to me, and it could just be a perspective thing. Who knows? But it looks small. It doesn't look super heavily armored, just from this silhouette, and it looks way undergunned. If this is supposed to be a fighting vehicle, so to me, just based on what information I have here, like I'm hoping / looks to me like it's got to be something else, and so I'm leaning towards that thing on the top being not a turret, but like a drone of some kind. So it could be exploration, so that could be an exploration or drone, or like maybe even a scanner, kind of like we see on the Terrapin or the Hornet Tracker, which will come up later.
Yeah.
Or my personal hope is that it's a repair drone, and that this is, a stepping stone toward the Vulcan.
Yeah, repair drone would be very cool. I still think that is a small turret with size 1s on it, but if it was a repair drone, I would be very happy. It does look like it has this thing off the back of it, which I was thinking was like an engineering tool, like a bulldozer or something like that. Obviously, we don't have voxel mining or anything in this, so it would just be for show, but CIG has done that kind of thing in the past. You had another theory on that, though, on what that might be.
Who, me?
Ghost?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, what's showing off on the back, I know you had mentioned that it might be like a mud flap. To me, it looks like it might be extending along the rails. It's really hard to tell, similar to what we have with the mule. And I'm thinking this might be some sort of protected exploration vehicle where we know that certain areas, like I forget the planet name, and you throw it out there if you remember it, when they were talking about that one planet in Castra that the UE bombarded. Now it's all toxic and
Bullseye.
terrible.
Yep.
Bullseye,
Yeah, Bullseye. Maybe this vehicle would be some sort of like interim where you fly down and you have to use a vehicle because your suits don't last that long. And so you need something like this with tracks to explore the surface a bit more. And maybe it has some outboard cargo areas to bring a little bit of supplies when you find out where you're at.
So like a beefy explorer vehicle, like the Ursa, but for hostile environments. I could see that. Yeah. And I mean, my other theory was just this part right here on the back. I could see that being a building module. It would certainly fit with the theme of CitCon. But there was another theory we were kicking around, which was, either one of you want to take that one? Big medical track vehicle.
That's the next one.
That was this one too. Like this one could be a little medical one, but we could go on to. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I feel like maybe they're trying to come up with a competitor for the Ursa, and so could be a medical vehicle, made by like Grey Cat or someone. But I think they're trying to fill in all the stuff we don't have before they get to over duplicating the stuff we do. And I really don't think we need another medical ground vehicle. It's certainly not as smaller than the Ursa at this point. And
slower, more than likely. Yeah, that's a good point.
Probably.
And we do have one that might be filling in a bit later, but we can push on from this one. We'll keep rolling because there's more interesting ones coming up. That one's certainly interesting. This one right here. So built on the Atlas chassis. So not to be confused with the Atlas chassis that the the walkers, the latest walkers we have, and the Titan suit, that's the Atlas chassis. This is also an Atlas chassis, which this one has the Spartan, the Ballista, and the Centurion. The Ballista has all the missiles, the Centurion has all the guns, and the Spartan is the carrier. What this one, I believe, is this the one that they showed off at last year's CitCon, so 2023 or 2953, if that's how you like to do it. That was a construction vehicle, and they've just kind of since tweaked it a little bit so that the drones just fit in this back rather than a tractor trailer. That would be my assumption on this one, but my two friends here have a different take, so let's hear that.
So this is my hope, and I could be way off, but I mean, this looks pretty similar to the Spartan, right? Right now, with laser cannons instead of the ballistic weapons that are on the Spartan. But I would love for them to do, based on the image they showed at CitCon last year, just kind of a base Atlas chassis, and then do all of the different versions as like
a
tractor trailer
flatbed
modules.
Right.
Yeah, flatbed trailer modules.
Yeah.
And so, you can do the drone one for construction. You could do a cart that you pull around that has the ballista missiles or the Centurion cannons, or even a troop carrier one. I think you could get all of that in there, still have some internal storage. And what I think would be really cool is the ability to leave those trailers behind. So drop off a Centurion turret or a ballista turret, and then go about your business doing other things. I really hope, and I know there's virtually no chance this will happen, that you can daisy chain all these things and just drive your land train across the planet,
right,
with various personnel modules and some cannons on it for defense and all that jazz.
Yeah, and actually it's an interesting point about the turret on here, which I think I just kind of glazed over. Those look like 2 size 3s there, which would be bigger than the other turrets on the other versions of this vehicle. I think they're size 2s for the pilot controlled turret, which is what this is. So this is clearly a different model. But yeah, we had long sort of asked for in the community and suspected that there might be a flatbed version, and modularity or having it so that you could slap a trailer on it. Again, yeah, I don't think we'll be able to daisy chain them, but it would be cool. Being able to drop them off would be neat, though, is that you just need one Spartan that kind of goes back and forth from a C2 and carries out these sort of platforms. Just drop them off for defense would be an interesting idea.
The back end looks fairly substantial. It's obviously much taller, about a half size taller than that person in the back there. It might have a big door that just comes folding down and that maybe can fit an 8 SCU crate. Maybe it might have, like you mentioned, Scarlett, it might just have some seats back there where it can be sort of troop transport. My take was it's big enough that it could hold some sort of habitation unit in there, or it could be more of like a military focused medical vehicle. Maybe 2 beds in it that can take a few shots in a battle rather than the Nursa, which is, I don't think it has any guns on it. I'm not sure if it does anything.
I think it's got paired size ones, but not much. It doesn't have the paired size 3s.
Yeah, the standard Ursa weaponry.
Yeah.
It's got the 1 bed in it, and it's not going to be able to take very much fire. There should be some sort of military medical vehicle, ground based, that can take some shots while putting a few back.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest, I think that it's probably the builder, but I really hope I'm wrong and that it has like a tier 2 medical bed in it, because I would love to see a medical version of that vehicle. Now that I hear it, I pretty much have to have it. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And that does, I think, fill in a gap.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Ursa Medivac is not a military vehicle, and it's small. We could use a bigger ground-based medical vehicle to support, squad and up operations, as opposed to just 2 or 3 people.
Well, and that was something that we were doing when we were tooling around at the Carnival. Was one of us would take like a tier 2 or a tier 1 injury when they start stacking, and the NERSA doesn't heal that. It just heals the tier 3s, or at least that's the plan eventually. So you do need something, especially a combat vehicle. It'd make a lot of sense that they'd have a ground combat vehicle that can heal to a greater degree. That's about all I got to say about that. Do you guys have anything else you want to add on this? Wish listing?
Yep.
All right, moving on.
Oh, for wish listing,
Repair, yeah, that'd be another good one. This guy does not repair. So this is we know what this one is. This is the Hornet Mark II version of the Ghost. And so what happens right now in the game is that, and that is just the regular Mark I Hornet, but the Ghost and the Eclipse, their stealth is faked. Basically what CIG has done is sort of said, these two ships, you can only detect them if you're this close to them. So it doesn't matter if you switch out the components or anything else, that ship is, you can't detect it unless it's here. So for example, if you can't detect it at 300 meters, if it's at 301, you can't see it. If it hits 300 meters, you can see it. It's completely faked. My hope is that since they're bringing the Ghost in, that it's coming with the new radar and scanning that they've been working on for a little over 2 years now. But yeah, not a whole lot to say about this or its cousin that I'm going to talk about in a second here. But yeah, Hornet Ghost, very sneaky ship, kind of the scout and intelligence gatherer of the Hornet lineup. So what are you guys' thoughts?
I don't have a lot of thoughts on this ship. I would love for some Fox and Hound reconnaissance versus counter reconnaissance gameplay or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that building blocks are going to be there pretty soon. But I think mostly this is just, hey, we're cranking out variants to fill out the Mark II lineup, and these are easy and next.
Kind of agree. I think you're right where they're just cranking them out just because they already have a template to go off of. It can't be that much different to modify that. I hope that it's because they're working on stealth technology and actually putting it into the game when they
Like the real thing.
What'd you say?
Oh, I said like the real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do a whole lot of combat piloting. In fact, I basically do 0 combat piloting, but I do like reconnaissance, whether it's on ground or in a ship. So this would be something up my alley if they can get it to work. I would love to sit there and spy on anybody watching our video right now and report back where you guys are putting your bases. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, which, speaking of filling out the lineup, we've got the next one in the lineup, which is the Tracker. So if the Ghost is the stealthy, sneaky, you can't detect me version, the Tracker is the one that, if you remember the talk on CitCon where they were talking about all the different characters going out and hunting the sandworm, the Valacar, they had one of the guys was a Tracker. And the thing is that they were saying, with that suit, everyone would see him coming because he's constantly broadcasting and pinging and all that, but he would be able to see everything. So that's basically what the Tracker does. This is sort of the hard counter to the Ghost and ships like the Ghost. The Tracker has a much better chance of finding and detecting them. Kind of the fighter version of the Terrapin. My hope is that, again, this is coming with New radar scanning, kind of a long shot at this point, but it would be nice. Maybe the new bounty hunter tier 2, but we'll see. What are you guys' thoughts on the tracker?
I can only really see the tracker and the ghost being used when base building comes online with that org gameplay in Pyro with all of the stations and having to fight over resources and stuff to maintain the shield technology and stations. Because I could see a squad of trackers, flying around in space, looking for any blips that pop up if anybody's trying to sneak in and chase away anybody trying to discover their base. Or, same thing with the ghost. It's probably, how useful is the ghost until base building comes in? I'm not sure. The other thing I could see the tracker be helpful with is a transport assistance. Whether you hire one as a cargo carrier,
you
need 2 on your sides. They can see everything coming towards you if you're about to be attacked and tell you to get out and take off.
Which is kind of an interesting thing I hadn't thought of, is that the ghost is very much offensive. The tracker, despite its name, is kind of more defensive. Like you're sort of saying that it would be able to see things that are coming to attack you, whereas the ghost is going out there and trying to find things to attack.
I do pretty much exclusively cargo hauling. I am tempted to start dabbling a little bit into salvage, but pretty much I stick to hauling in that sort of realm of gameplay. So if I wanted to hire people to watch my back, I think I would want people in a tracker before anything else, because they could see whoever's coming before they could see us.
Yeah, and that was kind of one of my theories on the fleet design behind the Carnival, was specifically the reason why I have a Carrack in my particular fleet is to sit next to the haulers like the Merchantman, which is what I will be flying. I wanted the Carrack there as the ultimate scanner to sort of be like, yeah, there's an eclipse 2 AU away. It's right there. We can see it. Which that would be living the dream. Anyone else have anything else to say about the tracker?
Just that, I envision it a little bit more like what Ghost was talking about. You pair this with a Super Hornet or some other fighter for close range support, counter recon kind of stuff. If you're trying to, support your fleet with scanning, you're going to be using Terrapins and Carracks if you really want to go to the extreme. But I think the tracker is much more about, hey, what is nearby that is trying not to be seen?
Yeah.
As opposed to what is a couple of quantum jumps away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a solid point. And as I switch on to the next vehicle here, interesting that the Super Hornet is not part of this. We know that it's being worked on. I'm guessing for the Hornet releases, probably Invictus would make a lot of sense. But this guy, so we happen to know what this one is, obviously a Terrapin. And I'm just going to kind of let the video play right here. This is the medical version of the Terrapin. Kind of interesting if it'll be as stealthy as the Terrapin is supposed to be. There's supposed to be a couple variants that we know about with the Terrapin. One is this Medivac, and another is a small troop transport. If you ever watch Sis and Kate, she often uses a Terrapin as a troop transport, and that is on to the Intrepid, which we will not be talking about during this scroll. But yeah, Terrapin Medivac, my hope with this is that it will come with kind of a further gold standard pass on the Terrapin. I know one of you is saying that they've actually got that in the PTU right now. I'm hoping it comes with a little bit cleaner lines, like they fix up the interior just a hair, because Terrapin is an old ship at this point in the game. What are you guys' thoughts?
I mean, it's a flying Nursa.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's not all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Well,
It is going to be interesting to see where this differentiates itself from the Pisces. Like,
mhm.
are they throwing this in there because lots of people claim to want it, and uh, converted Medivac Terrapins are in lore? So is this really like a lore ship, or is this going to have, say, a tier 2 bed versus the Medical Pisces tier 3 bed, or something like that?
I
I'd
wonder
be
if it's
curious
a
to see that.
Squadron 42 asset. That's a good point. And looking at this image, it doesn't look like it has the nose turret underneath. So it looks like it's completely unarmed from this. It would definitely be more heavily armored than the Pisces, but the Pisces is a lot more maneuverable and can get into tighter places. So
Could just be civilian versus military.
yeah, it could be. I don't know. What do you think, Ghost?
I mean, I'm always for more medical gameplay. I
Yeah.
look forward to when medical gameplay gets more advanced. I think it could be a good ship for military operations, or trying to rescue those who are down on the ground. It comes flying in, landing, taking all sorts of fire while you load up whoever's injured and get the hell out of there. But yeah, it'll be neat.
It's kind of
Better
like
than
what
you can
we're
in a red or a Pisces.
yeah. Well, and I mean, it's kind of the flying equivalent of what we were talking about with that Atlas chassis version. If that is a medical vehicle, it could take the hits in a combat zone, pick someone up. But I mean, yeah, I mean, not much else you can say about a medical Terrapin other than it's a Terrapin with medical abilities. So let's push on to this one. So when I was originally doing this in our chat yesterday, I was like, well, obviously this is the Mirai Guardian, which we've got a picture of here. We happen to know some stats on this. This is leaked, so if you don't want to hear this, don't listen for a couple seconds. The Mirai Guardian comes with 2 size 5 guns, 4 S4 missile racks, 2 S3 missile racks, and 8 size 3 missiles. Yeah, that's kind of a weird way to put it, but this thing apparently would be a Vanguard competitor, so a heavy fighter. But you guys kind of had a different theory on this, which I found interesting. We do know that it will have an interior from those leaks.
Mm-hmm. It strikes me as odd, first and foremost. This is talking about the Guardian in general. It strikes me a little bit odd that they're going with a single-seater heavy fighter. It's not really something we have a lot of competition for in the verse currently. Usually you've got a turret gunner. And so I wonder how this will be able to hold its own if it doesn't have that.
Right.
It will need to be the most maneuverable, I think, of the heavy fighters to do that. But I don't think that this is just the Mirai Guardian, because we got it in the ship scroll from last year, and none of those ships show up again in the ship scroll this year. We know that the Guardian's coming out at IAE, and this is supposed to be stuff they're working on over the next 12 months. And it'd be weird for them to say, we're working on this over the next 12 months, by which we mean we're putting the very finishing touches on this and releasing it next month.
Right.
I'm thinking this has to be a variant of the Guardian. Because it's Mirai, I'm thinking that's either going to be an interdiction ship or racer.
Yeah, and the racer thing, once you said that, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because if you look right here, the gap in between the two wings, I guess you could call them, on the starboard side of the ship, that is where the size 5 gun is. And I'll kind of pull up a picture here. You can sort of see that the gun sits like right there, although I guess it is on the higher one. But if you look at this image, I'm not seeing any of the geometry of that gun. So this does appear to be something other than the base variant. So a racer, especially with Mirai, would make a lot of sense. Like a long distance racer, which is something that they have in lore. Like the GN are known for doing a sort of rite of passage race that goes across multiple star systems, to give you an idea. So a racer with an interior isn't beyond the pale.
Right, somewhere that you could have 2 pilots running some kind of rotation as you race across multiple systems.
Sort of a competitor to the 350R, which we don't have yet. Like, that's the only racer that's that size. So what do you think, Gus? Anything else?
No, I don't really have much to add. I think it'd be really neat if it was a racer of some sort. I really like the model for this Guardian series. I think it looks really cool. But
I'm flat out getting a Guardian. Like, I don't even really know what it needs to do, but yeah, I just really dig the aesthetics of this ship in general, and a racer would be very cool.
Could also be a Guardian MX, because they have the Fury and then the Fury MX, right? The missile variant.
The missile variant.
This could be the missile variant in the larger size.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool if it carried the missiles internally as opposed to all over the wings. Although it does look like it has little stanchions or something there.
Medivac.
Guardian Medivac. There you go. Guardian Builder. It's very
every ship on here is a medical variant.
Yep.
So let's push on to the next one, because this one I thought was really obvious at first, because I looked at it and I went, oh, it's a Prospector. So they must be doing a gold standard past the Prospector. But then you look at it a little bit more, those people look a little bit smaller. Prospector is bigger than most people realize, but it's not that much bigger. It does look like there's an elevator back there. It's got this weird thing poking off the nose. And to me, this looks like a size 2 mining laser. So this thing might be an interim in between the Mole and the Prospector, in the size that it's like, it has a size 2 mining laser. It's a 2-person ship. So it's kind of like the bulked up Prospector size. But you guys had a couple different opinions about what this might be, other than a 2-person Prospector.
I mean, with the leaks out there stating that there's a ship that they're calling the MISC Fortune, that name leads me to think salvage, misfortune for the person who wrecked their ship, but fortune for the salvager.
Yeah.
And it would make a ton of sense to me if MISC basically took the Prospector model, sized it up a little bit, and made a salvaging ship.
Which brings up another point, that we do not have a interim ship. Well, we're missing 2 ships in between the Vulture, which has 2 size 1 salvage lasers, and the Reclaimer, which has 2 size 3s, I believe. Which there should be at least 2 ships in between that. There should be a medium and a large if the Vulture is a small. And this could be the medium, like it has a tier 2 salvaging laser. Would also make a lot of sense. And I can't remember who said it in the previous talk that I definitely did not record, that there aren't any saddlebags on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ghost brought that up last time, and that is a brilliant point that I missed. So that almost, to me, that head up there looks like a mining head, but the mining heads and the salvager heads look so much alike, and the fact that it doesn't look like it has those saddlebags, of course, it's hard to tell from a silhouette, but still kind of suggests that, yeah, it might be a salvager, and that little thing hanging off the nose could be the giant lights that the salvagers have. Any other thoughts on this guy, or we'll push on to the next one? MISC Fortune, I think, is I so hope they keep that name, because that's hilarious. But yeah, I think that this is a pretty safe pick for that.
It's a great name. And I hope that this is also recognition, because it looks like with the size and the silhouettes of the people in there, you could be looking at a crew size of like 4 to 5 maximum on this.
Oh,
and
wow.
I really think that that would be a good acknowledgement of what this gameplay loop actually is. Because you can go out in your Vulture and you can scrape. But to me, salvage is rapidly becoming as much about stripping cargo and components as it is just stripping the hull.
Right.
And so I think a ship this size would be perfect for a small crew to go out and be able to pull off those components and grab some cargo, throw it on that elevator while you're stripping the hull and then breaking it down into construction materials. And hopefully, I'm hoping that this has, in addition to the internal storage that may be involved in that elevator, that it maybe has some external storage where the saddlebags would normally go between those like big VTOL thrusters, where you can put your SCU boxes of salvage materials.
That does kind of seem to be MISC's niche is those external boxes. So I mean that would make sense. Although I guess you got the raft that does the same thing. But yeah, that would be kind of cool. No guarantee on that, but that would be a very cool thing.
And we're all assuming this is MISC and the whole MISC Fortune thing. So I'm going to stick with MISC. But
yeah,
this design language does not look like it couldn't be Argo either.
That's
like the landing gear and stuff has a kind of rafty feel to it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm about 90% sure that it's MISC, but yeah, you're right. The other 10% would probably be Argo if nothing else. But yeah,
the front is too round for an Argo, but maybe Argo and MISC are collaborating or something. Who knows?
MISC buys them out. God, you'd have so many angry Argo players. Anyone else have anything else on this one?
No, I agree.
I want to hear your guys' ridiculous theories on this next one. Is what I want.
Well, let's get into it. So next one up is this weird ass thing. So this thing, when I saw it, I was just kind of like, you look at the person that's hanging off the nose. It doesn't look like there's enough room for there to actually be a cockpit here. So I was thinking maybe the person rides on top, and with building coming into the game, that this thing would be kind of like a big cargo sled, like something that could carry 20 SCU, and it's just a cargo sled that you would use in construction or something like that, like carry it around the back of a C2, and it would just have all of the materials you'd need. But on the one that I definitely didn't record because I'm a professional, we came up with another theory on that. So what was that?
My theory is that it kind of looks like a boat, and there's no way that it's gonna be a boat, right? But it kind of looks like one. You can't really, like you were saying, push someone up to the front.
You can't see it right now, but right now I'm playing the footage from Squadron 42 from 2023, where the guy fires up a boat and starts driving it down the canyon and pulling off to the side. And the looks of that little flatbed boat are not dissimilar to this silhouette. And this could easily be a rudder back here, and that does look like a keel right there. So here's the question that I didn't ask on that thing that we won't speak of that definitely didn't happen. What would you use a boat like this for? I mean, it looks like a barge if it's a boat, a very small barge.
Oh, goodness. I couldn't tell you what we could use it for.
Fishing?
Who knows? What are you actually supposed to use an Ursa for in the game right now?
Oh, God, that's a good point.
Eventually, it could move some cargo. It could, the 1.5 update that'll bring fishing. This could be useful if it is a boat. I'm going with not a boat myself, in part because there's just absolutely no gameplay for a boat right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a boat, but it does kind of have a boat silhouette, and I'm not seeing... I mean, it could be something alien like Tavarin or something like that, or something that just carries a bunch of drones, but I don't see where the person would sit in this thing.
I'll tell you, I don't like the headlights in it. I think it's kind of ugly with its headlights. It looks like a manta ray eyes or something.
Which is actually kind of cool. And in fact, leads me to what I now suddenly hope it is. And this is totally off the cuff. I hope that this is a ship that can submerge. So this is an underwater explorer.
A submarine. Man, that would be awesome.
100%. But what I actually think it is that this is an anvil ship that's just got like a weird perspective going on.
Yeah.
Because it looks a little bit to me like a hurricane almost, with no turret on top. So I'm thinking this is like an anvil starter or some other kind of. We talked previously about the possibility that this could be like the shuttle that they rent out, that insurance companies give out when you go to reclaim your ship. I think it's early for that to come in. And we have the Pisces, so I don't know why you wouldn't just use a Pisces.
Unless this thing could carry more people. I don't know. I mean, it does kind of have that vibe that maybe it could carry 8 to 10 people in it. But
I mean, if you're saying it doesn't have room for a cockpit, then I don't.
Well,
think
I
it
mean,
can
depending
hold 8
on
to
where
10
the
people.
cockpit is. But yeah, you're right. I don't know. This is the weirdest one on this list. This is the one that I just can't get a vibe on because I have no idea what it would be. So yeah, on this one, I'm going to kind of do the content creator thing. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Like and subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Okay, anyone else?
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think it's any surprise that they put that one and this next one next to each other?
It could. What a great segue.
It goes from weird to weirder.
Yeah, so here we go. So this one is clearly Drake, and my theory on this one is the one that I was working on is that it's kind of the big brother of the Herald, and I'll show you one of the original concept images of the Herald was as very asymmetric. You had the dish on one side and you had the wing on the other, and then they kind of reconcepted it when they built it and made it symmetrical. So it kind of had this layout. So, I mean, obviously Drake, it doesn't, at least from what I can see, it doesn't have many guns. It's kind of got a snail foot that it lands on, but it's big. So, I mean, maybe it's a scout or a blockade runner or something like that, but it doesn't look like it carries a lot of cargo. Yeah, I have no idea. What do you guys think? That is the correct answer.
I have no freaking clue what this is supposed to be. I guess Drake, the contrarian in me when you say Drake makes me want to go, no, it's totally not Drake. I mean, what else could it be? It's ugly as sin. Like,
please don't
Drake
unsubscribe,
ships.
Drake fans. He doesn't mean that.
I do mean that. Ugly in an endearing way. In fact, I think I said in our previous totally non-existent conversation,
correct,
that I hope this comes out as, and it's called the Drake Duckling.
Yeah, because God, is it ugly. I'm totally getting one. But yeah, I mean, it's a Drake ship, but at least from what we can see, it has almost no guns on it. You know what it kind of looks like? If you chop off the wings, it almost looks like the command module on the Caterpillar. I mean, I don't think that's what it is, but it kind of has that look to it. But God, I don't know, really small explorer or something like that. Like, is actually an explorer. Or a builder. I mean, builder would make sense. Maybe it has a couple building drones. The thing with Drake, like we were saying, is that Drake builds everything. They have a salvager, they have pirate ships, they have a carrier. I'm
really liking this idea that you just put out there, that this is the command module. And in classic Drake fashion, they're like, we need a ship that does this. Instead of let's making a new ship, we've got these extra command modules.
Slap wings on it.
Let's slap wings on this and make this so that we can, in theory, do atmospheric flight better in our command module or something.
Tim, you got some spare wings from the Corsairs around, right? Slap them on this thing. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it is such a weird looking ship, and I'm definitely getting one. I don't know. Any more thoughts on this guy? What it could be? Medical. It could be medical. They do have the Cuddy Red.
My biggest problem with anything that I can think of it being is that they've got the Cutlass. And Drake's thing is like, why wouldn't we just make everything a Cutlass? We'll only design a new ship when we can't Cutlass it, and that will be made of Cutlass parts.
Yeah, and I mean, the size of this thing, it's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but you look at the little dude down there, it looks bigger
like Cutlass
than a
size.
Cuddy, but smaller than a Corsair. So, man, I have no idea on this one. So, again, let us know in the comments. Either of you guys have any other theories on what this could be?
No, Doug.
I think you're kind of barking up the right tree when you say it might be some sort of scout, like a long distance scout.
Something I just thought of. So with jump points, you've got the main jump point, but other places, little jump points pop open, and you can kind of find a secret way into the new system. Maybe this thing is a scanner and jump point stabilizer. So it kind of does what the Carrack does on a smaller scale.
I mean, isn't in theory that's what the Corsair is supposed to do?
I think the Corsair is more of just a bulked up, not Cuddy.
It's just a Cutlass that you have too many friends for.
Yeah. It's meant to explore the cargo holds of other people's ships, whereas I think this thing is actually meant to, let's totally not find a way to smuggle all the illegal stuff that we have in the back of our Cuddy through this jump point or to the next system. I could see it being something like that. Maybe.
It could be. It would feel like a little bit of a betrayal of the lore, because they would 100% just make a Cutlass that does that.
It's a fair point.
Right, they would slap a jump point stabilizer in the back of their Cutlass.
But CIG needs to sell more ships.
Cuddy blue style, Cuddy red style.
The Cuddy JP. Yeah, I don't know. This is one that could truly be anything. Like Drake does everything, so it's kind of hard to nail one thing down. It does look non-combat though, which is very unusual for Drake. They only have, I believe, a couple examples: the Mule and the Vulture.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most undergunned ship since the Herald, basically.
Yeah.
And even the Herald has a decent size cannon on it.
True. Yeah. Well, I mean, it has like a size 3 up front and 2 size 2s or something like that. And it's got the spikes, but, well, let's push on. That one is pretty mysterious though. So yeah, definitely let me know in the down below bits, but this next one is far less mysterious. So this is obviously the RSI Apollo, which they have been working on for a long time here. So this one, probably the big question on the Apollo is it coming with tier 2 medical gameplay? So this is something that has been on their progress tracker for a long time. They have been working on tier 2 medical gameplay, which is supposed to come with a bunch of social aspects as well as think things like hygiene, the way NPCs will react to you, but also the tier of the medical bed making sense, DNA degradation, things like permanent injuries. Like if you get a tier 1 injury on your arm, you might actually lose your arm. So the hope would be that the Apollo would be coming with that gameplay. But what do you guys think about this? Or do you think that is something other than the Apollo?
It's definitely the Apollo. I've seen people do side-by-sides of like the Apollo model as concepted in this, and it seems pretty clear it's the Apollo. I would love for it to come with medical gameplay, but I think it's much more about the fact that this is going to be the year of the drone, and that was sort of the main thing holding the Apollo back, I think, from getting put into the game, was that it was somewhat reliant on having a drone, and they didn't want to put it in with a non-functioning drone. The only other thought I have on this at all, because medical is just not going to really be my loop, is that there better be a harp somewhere on this ship.
Probably a Guinness harp, but yeah, the drone gameplay is a really good point too, because one of the arguments I had early on for drones was that they should release the camera drone first, because all it needs to be is an eyeball. And now they have the builder drones coming in, which are basically just an eyeball. So they can just kind of skip over the camera drones and just go straight to this one that has actual gameplay associated with it. But it does kind of suggest that they're getting close on the drone gameplay, which means this thing could have its drone. Also might explain why they rolled it out so much later, because I mean, they worked on this thing 2 years ago. Any more thoughts on the Apollo?
No, not much. It's definitely the Apollo. I agree with Scarlett though. I don't think it's going to come with tier 2 medical gameplay necessarily. It'd be cool, but
and they're certainly bringing in at least 2 medical ships this year, and so that could mean that.
Yeah,
but I'm not super optimistic about that, especially with all the way the features are getting delayed right now.
Yeah, not holding your breath. Yeah, I would assume this thing would be June at the earliest. But something that is probably
Could be Invictus. They've already done most of the work on it before, right?
Yeah, Invictus would make sense. Next ship up, we've got the Starlancer BLD. So this is one obviously that we know about, and I am just gonna run this in the background, the images that we have on this big bad boy. Yeah, so I mean, again, the BLD sort of suggests that they're getting close on drones. It kind of depends on when they're actually going to be dropping the BLD on us, which if it's coming in 3 months, we know we're getting the max at IAE. We don't know when we're getting the TAC. Yeah, and I think on the conversation that didn't happen, we were saying the TAC is probably going to be an Invictus thing. I wouldn't be shocked if this one were around June and they release the whole drones and kind of a tier 0 building by June. That's probably very optimistic on my part, but yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think of the aesthetic of the whole Starlancer while we're talking about it?
It's the MISC aesthetic, which is just really hit or miss for me. Like, I like the whole series. I hate the Freelancer. I don't like the Prospector at all. But I do like this. This does it for me in a weird way. And it really, really makes me want my Constellation rework. But I will be buying a build, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I do have a max, and I will probably be getting this CCU to the BLD as soon as it becomes available, which I'm thinking will be IAE is when they sell the concept for the BLD. Would make a lot of sense because I gotta save something for IAE. But
I don't think we have time for it in this discussion, but I am like, it is weirding me out that they hyped up base building so hard at CitizenCon, and then they dropped for sale the Max and the TAC, but not the BLD and not the Pioneer.
Yeah, it's interesting, and not the FM. So
right, none of the base building ships were for sale when base building was at its highest fever pitch, and either CIG has turned a corner or something else. I think that's a whole other discussion on its own. But it's just really weirding me out.
We're definitely going to be having a big conversation on base building, and we'll have a walkthrough on the Polaris when that drops in. We'll make sure to mug Knight and get on his. Anything else that we want to say about the BLD?
I think it's ugly. I really do. I said it last time, and I'll say it again. It looks like this ship was overinflated and ate too much or something. It's got that frog croak neck underneath its nose. From the profile in this blue image that I have pulled up here, where they showed us, it kind of looks like a hot dog.
It's like somebody wanted the extra girthy version of the Freelancer.
Yeah, it's just so. Yeah, MISC ships for me, I don't always like their design aesthetic. This one, I'm leaning towards more. I just don't like the look of it. It's probably a great ship, but it's ugly.
So Starlancers are kill on sight for Ghost. Noted. Just not while we're building our base. Just
Right.
close your eyes.
Ghost only flies around in cargo ships, so it's RAM on site, I guess.
Yep.
Shake your fist at it. Yeah, there we go.
Raft doesn't have very much, but it's chunky.
Oh God, I do love the raft though. So yeah, pushing on from the build, we've got the Perseus. So this one is one of my dark horse favorite ships. I absolutely love the Perseus. And I was saying this in the conversation that never happened, that this thing, it doesn't feel like a hard counter to the Polaris, but it'll definitely, if you could put one or two of them around, a Polaris will have to think twice because those guns are so big. And the other thing that I love about the Perseus is the fact that the crew requirement for a Corvette is super, super small for this ship. I think max crew size is like 5 people or something like that. Like you need...
It's less than the Hammerhead.
It's considerably less than Hammerhead. You need the 2 turret operators. You probably need an engineer and a pilot, and you're probably good on this thing. You could do with a co-pilot. But yeah, if you're a small group and you want to do bounty hunting on the bigger ships, like Idris would be hard. But like this thing should just chew hammerheads up, and anything up to an Idris, probably needs to pay a lot of attention when these things are around. About the only thing, when they originally came out with the concept, the thing that was in my head, and I was saying this the other day, was I was thinking this would be more like a Coast Guard cutter that would have the big guns be lightly armored and be quick. And they kind of went the other way and went sort of the Ironclad way, not the Drake Ironclad, which ironically is the next ship on this list, but like the old Civil War ships where it's really, really, really heavily armored and it has big guns and it's slow. You can't crack it, but it's going to hang out in the fight forever. It's just going to be a beefcake. What are your guys' thoughts on the Perseus?
The only real thought I have on the Perseus is that I hope that, when we keep talking about ships and what gameplay might come with them, I hope that this heralds implementation of armor in the game, because that was supposed to be this thing's calling card besides its big guns, is that it's really heavily armored. And so if it gets sort of slapped into the game without the armor, I think it's actually going to be kind of made of paper up until that point, which will really piss off the hardcore Perseus fans, and we'll get to hear about the state of the Perseus and them trying to balance it and whatnot for until they get armor into the game ad infinitum. Yeah,
that's actually a really good point, because I mean they've kind of moved in the thing with all the components are live now. They're working on weapons affecting components rather than whole hit points. So yeah, if they're releasing the Perseus under the old system where they just give it 1 billion hit points, yeah, I would consider that a failure. I'm right there with you on that it needs to have actual armor, and its advantage is that you can't really get penetrating hits on it unless you're hitting it with something very large or a whole bunch of something smaller.
Right, and not just their tier 1 that they've talked about coming with engineering, where a certain amount of rounds will just pierce through your ship, right? Because from what they've talked about it's not using the Maelstrom system at all. It's not taking into account material or hardness or armor. And so this thing would be very, very vulnerable given how likely slow it's going to be. And it's not huge, but it is a chunky target. So I think fighters will have a field day with this up until the point that it gets its armor.
That's a really good point. Yeah, if people are popping this thing with an arrow, something has gone very wrong with its design. But it does, kind of like you were saying, its role has definitely changed, at least in my head, that when I was thinking Coast Guard cutter, I was thinking that this thing would be doing patrol. So you kind of have your main fleet flying together, and then this thing would be kind of out looking where the fleet is moving to. But now I'm thinking it's the other way around, that this thing would be sticking right next to the fleet and a big deterrent. Like if you bring your big ships in here, if it doesn't die, it's going to get badly messed up.
Yeah, it's a punch-up escort, right? So
Yeah.
you should be securing your fleet with this and hammerheads, theoretically, with patrolling with Polarises and whatnot.
Punch up is a great way to put it, because the hammerhead punches down. Its whole purpose is to kill fighters. This thing's whole purpose is to kill things like the hammerhead or bigger. Well, that's the Perseus. I mean, not a lot I can say about it. I'm glad it's on this list. Next one up. You have anything to say on this one, Ghost?
No, not at all. And if one starts bearing down on me in my raft, I might just surrender my cargo immediately.
That's fair. So next one up was kind of a surprise. So this one was the Ironclad, which was last year's, was it IAE, or I think it was CitCon, which is a surprise because I wasn't expecting to see the Ironclad for a long, long time. Yeah, it was one of the two. It was at the end of last year we got this. But yeah, I was expecting to see this ship 5 years from now or something like that. But John Crew was saying we have to build the Ironclad before we can build the Kraken, which Kraken players just started drooling over that one. But yeah, this ship is the fatter pillar. So it's basically at least 2 caterpillars worth of stuff. Three, right. Yeah, I mean, the cargo bay in it is insane. It has that open top. My thought in the talk that never happened was that this thing could kind of be a pop-up base on its own. I mean, it could certainly support construction, but you could conceivably take an Ironclad with all the resources that you need, land it somewhere like next to a resource node that says you're pumping up iron or copper or something like that, build a pop-up base, exploit all those resources, break it down, and then go out without ever having to build like a permanent building. So people that were thinking that this would be a construction ship, I don't think it'll be a construction ship, but I don't think it won't be unrelated to that too. At the very least, it could be used to bring in all the stuff people need to build a bigger base. But yeah, big surprise that they're dropping this one, and really neat ship. I really like the way this one feels.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this very much could be your sort of traveling circus or carnival, if you will. If you have a small group of players that want to roam around and follow the resources, few CSVs, a bunch of cargo, since they're putting the decorating mode in for ships, the ability to possibly put in some crafting, some fabrication units in here. I think it is the perfect vehicle for that kind of gameplay. And in fact, I will be getting one just because once they announced the fact that you can do the decoration mode in ships, I thought to myself, all right, what's the biggest ship with the biggest wide open area? And it's the cargo hold of the Ironclad far and away.
Well, and yeah, I mean, on that point, you can put jump seats in anything with a cargo grid. So you could consider potentially make this thing a big, cheap people mover. Like, here you go. Here's 500 people. Everybody take your seat and we're going to go. Pay me your $10 each or whatever. Another thing that I hope they do with this, which they pretty much have to do, the Caterpillar right now is a very old ship in the game, that it wasn't built with modularity. It was built with modularity in mind, but they never actually made it. But the command module on the Caterpillar is supposed to be breaking off. The advantage of making the Ironclad is that they can build it that way now. Like when they release it, that command module should be able to come off. And that kind of goes along with the pop-up base idea, is that the command module could fly this thing down, drop it off, and then the command module could go and grab a caterpillar or something and come back, but it does kind of say good things about them being able to bring in the modularity for the caterpillar, just build it off of this.
Yeah, and to continue kind of the discussion that we're having about this, because what we're talking about is all the different things that this can do and can be used for, in addition to just being a great cargo mover. Like it sits in a great place, kind of between the larger of the whole series for moving just a ton of cargo, but externally, a large internal cargo mover is, I think, a really good thing to have and very healthy for the game. But one thing that and this is a little bit of dreaming, but with them talking about the customization, the decoration mode, crafting and construction and all that, it's taking this game a step closer to what I want it to be, which is bringing in a little bit of that like Firefly aspect. If you watch the old show, where you've got these old ships flying around the verse that get converted, for new purpose. Everybody, like Salty Mike had a video the other day complaining about the cargo holds and how they're designed in all these ships, and he certainly sees it as a negative that you have to kind of play Tetris with some of these ships and their cargo grids. But I actually kind of like that there's this variety, that some are good at one thing and not another, that they suit different purposes. But the more ships we can have in the verse that you can, swap out, and like you could run into an Ironclad that's just hauling cargo, but you could also run into one that basically runs a shop out of its cargo hold. The more that happens, the more emergent gameplay happens, the happier I'll be.
Well, and I was kind of seeing this thing as one of the reasons I grabbed it was kind of a BMM light, so a Merchantman light, that you could conceivably put a couple shops in it, and now you've got basically a big merchant mover run around that isn't the BMM, because we're not getting that for 15 years or whatever. But but I'm not bitter. Anyway,
separate topic, BMM for 1.0 question mark?
Oh, good God. For 1.0, probably. I mean, my guess on 1.0 is they'll be 4 to 5 years off. I think they'll swing back and tackle the BMM in like a year or two. They kind of have to. I think they need to get a couple designers devoted to the Banu lineup. But anyway, that's off topic for this. But yeah, this guy, really excited about this. Do I think we'll see it in a year? I think they'll be working on it. Although it does have a lot of empty space. They have a ton of asset packs for Drake. So I don't think it'll take as long as people think.
It's a pretty simple ship. It's a flying rectangle.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the interior, there isn't a lot to the interior either. Like, it's a gigantic cargo bay, and then like the T structure that the Caterpillar has. So I mean, there's not a lot to it. So I mean, they might be able to fast track that one, but we'll see. Let's push on to our last ship here. So this one was another one that I was thinking was probably going to be 5 or 6 years off. The CNOU Pioneer. So yeah, no doubt of what this ship is. That's definitely what it is. And they had a whole talk. So I'm just going to have this, the vid run in the background. One of my only fears that kind of grew during CitCon was it sort of seems like the larger bases and the space station in particular would be kind of big org only. I could see it being like Star Wars Galaxies, where a bunch of individuals or smaller orgs could kind of glom together and build something rather expansive, but would probably lack the unity of a larger org. Shameless plug for the Carnival here, because that's kind of what we're built around, is kind of a Gestalt theory where the whole is larger than the sum of the parts, but we're built on a cellular structure. So people can kind of be individuals, but benefit from a bigger org. But yeah, the Pioneer. So what do you guys think about the Pioneer? And How quickly do you think we'd see it? I'm thinking a year and a half, 2 years, unless they've been working on it up to this point, which I'm going to keep talking for a second. The gray box that's showing in this video, it looked like it was very far along, but it is hard to tell from gray box. But yeah, I'm done.
There was lots of stuff at CitCon that was gray box, and I'm going to put in quotation marks when I say gray box, where I believe them that it's in gray box, but what they were showing was prettied up to look like it was probably farther along than it realistically is. I hope
that's fair. That's fair.
But so it's tough to tell based on that. I do think that if we look at like the Polaris, which they showed off at CitCon last year in late white box, early gray box, and then they've spent 12 months polishing that. This ship is, I want to say something like 30 to 40% larger.
Yeah, I think it's 300 meters long, and I think
and
huge.
The Polaris is 166 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so this thing's enormous.
It's huge. It's consolidated Outland, which they don't have a ton of assets for. I mean, the largest consolidated Outland ship we have right now is what?
Nomad?
Do we have anything bigger than the Nomad?
No, we don't.
No.
So
on concept, yes, but no.
I feel like we're looking at CitizenCon 2026 is when they're really hoping that they get this flying.
I'd buy
as
that.
part of like the biggest patch they've put together that they're really hoping hooks all of the players coming over from the release of Squadron 42.
Yeah, kind of binds together or finishes off the building loop. It would make sense that you drop this there, which 2026 is kind of when I think that they would start rounding that off, because their goal for 1.0 is that the game loops would be in a much more polished state. So they're not going to be tier 0. They're going to be like tier 3 or something like that. But yeah, it's a good point on the size of this ship that honestly, Consolidated Outland kind of has the same problem that the Banu have, that the only Banu ship they have is the Defender. And so they took the Defender and they were like, okay, we're going to make a big ship. And then they just kind of made it by committee. And you had, 6 or 7 people all trying to design it, and ended up kind of a jumbled mess like the 600i did, when they didn't know what Origin's internals look like. That to that point, they had just had a couple smaller Origin ships, and now they're kind of, hopefully the 600i is another one that they should be swinging back and bumping out pretty soon, because it looked like the rework was quite a ways long. But yeah, right. Consolidated Outland's similar problem to the Banu is, what does the inside look like? And looking at this gray box, it kind of feels, if I'm being honest, more like an Argo ship. Like to the point that I wouldn't be shocked if they just yanked it away from Consolidated Outlands and gave it to Argo, although they had Cyrus, whatever his name is, the
that would be more problematic.
Yeah, well, especially since they did the ad. But yeah, I mean, it does feel a lot more Argo than Consolidated Outlands, although they could swing back.
What does Consolidated Outland feel like?
True. It doesn't feel Nomad, like anything right now. That's kind of the
Nomad
issue.
Feels like a really weird ship.
Yes.
It doesn't even feel like the Mustang.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's the whole like Gravlev thing and stuff. I feel like you kind of ignore the Nomad entirely, which leaves you with just the Mustang. And what does the Mustang inform you about for design language?
And that's sort of what I was saying.
Maybe this is
with them.
Great news for the BMM that they've totally abandoned the idea that we have to build out these asset packs for these larger ships, and we'll prove it by building the Pioneer.
Yeah, or maybe they've just decided that Consolidated Outlands, lore-wise, just builds weird things to purpose rather than fitting a design. Because, I mean, in lore, it's a new company, so maybe they're feeling their way. They're not like RSI or Aegis or Anvil that have been around for hundreds of years in lore. That
maybe CIG is saying, you know what, we can finish the Consolidated Outland portfolio with this ship, and then we can say
Right.
we've got a whole manufactured.
There you go. We finished the whole lineup. Yeah, that's true. Man, Consolidated Outlands is a really weird one. Like, I mean, trying to think of what all ships they have. It really is just kind of the Mustang, the Nomad, and this, isn't it? Do they have any other ships on concept?
Yeah. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, but anyway, ability to build huge bases, be able to build the space station is going to be enormous.
Is a base unto itself. I mean, everything we said about the Ironclad, this does bigger, better, faster.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this thing obviously has the largest drones. It's the king fabricator and builder without question that it can build everything. So it has the tiny fabricators, it can build vehicles, it can build buildings, it can build space stations. So yeah,
it can harvest resources. It can land on
Yeah.
your iron nodes and just suck up the iron.
I think they're going to roll that back. I think they're going to have it that it can build extractors, but I don't think they're going to keep it that it can actually extract on its own. I think that might have been...
I thought that was on the slide at CitCon.
So the slide that we got on CitCon holds 4 extra large construction drones. Funny that you mentioned it because it just came up on the vid that I was watching. 247 meters you do, 133 meters wide, 53 meters tall. So yeah, this thing is easily the size of a city block. Able to craft small ships and vehicles. Okay, so not everything, but still small ships gives you a large range. Integral ground extractors. Okay, so there you go. I was wrong. Capital components, 1,000 SEU cargo capacity. So ground extractors. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to walk that back or not. It just
have a tough time of it at this point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, at this point, the blowback would be...
As long as they hold off on selling it, maybe they can avoid potential blowback. But I don't think they're going to walk that back. I think they want this to be like, so for large orgs, this will be needed as part of like a key nexus for building your big org ground base.
Right.
It's going to be the only thing that can build the platform that builds space stations.
Right.
But I think for medium to even small orgs, if we're talking 15, 20 people, this could be your whole base. You just fly this around, whatever resources you need, you land on top of and suck up to build your fighters or whatever. And you've got a small, a couple of fighters and maybe a Corvette escort for this, and you just move that wherever you need to go.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a hell of a vulnerable ship. Let me pause this video before we go any further. That its weaponry on its own is not big, and this is really an all your eggs in one
easy
basket.
Cross section to hit.
Yes, yeah, especially from above. But kind of on what you were saying for small and medium orgs, I could see some of the PMC and the heavily military focused orgs kind of being like, who wants to go sit in the prospector for a year while we build these things up? And you have all these guys that are combat pilots and they're all like, I want to shoot things. That they might actually go out and hire an industrial org to do all that stuff and build it up, a lot like how an industrial org may hire a PMC or a military focused org to protect them. So I could kind of see this building synergy, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just hopes and dreams on my part. We'll see.
That's kind of my hot take on this ship, is that what you were talking about, who wants to sit in the ship for a year and build stuff? And there's not going to be a whole lot of people, I don't think, that will want to do that, besides myself.
And me.
I
think
and me.
Surprised.
I mean, obviously, with my SaaS Factory playthrough, I'm apparently happy to build stuff, but yeah.
Well, so I think you, Don, are the type of person who's going to go out and want to build the base and design the base. And this doesn't give you the design, right? If you're just flying this around and building internally, manufacturing stuff internally, which is what I was talking about. And just be on the ship. That's kind of my dream version of this game is I can live in the spaceship and do all these things in the spaceship.
Right.
But
Which is why I want the merchantman. That's my dream too. That is my ship, because
this gives you both worlds. Like if I have a problem with this ship, it's that it does too many things. Everyone will want this ship, and the people that don't have this ship will want to blow this ship up because they're mad they don't have this ship.
Yeah, I mean, this ship is definitely going to be a big target. That the person thinking they're going to solo fly this thing around the verse and make millions of dollars is going to be in for a hell of a surprise when they actually try to take off in the thing, which is another thing that we talked about in the talk that never happens, is where the hell is this thing going to spawn? I mean, I think it's Idris sized. So
yeah, there's no hangar big enough.
I believe that Idris is supposed to be spawnable in the extra large landing zone hangars.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. But I mean, yeah, that does definitely mean, especially if you're going off to build a base somewhere, the second you fly this thing out of the LZ, that's it. You better have a really good plan for where it's going, how it's going to get there, how you're going to protect it, while it's doing all of its things. One of the other things we talked about in the conversation that never happened was I could see smaller orgs either being forced to build exclusively in high-sec areas or way off the beaten path, which I think that'll be dangerous because just your org ships flying back and forth, the nature of games like this, they will find the location of that base. And for the Carnival's part, we're going to be building in Goss is going to be where our state is, but we're primarily a mobile traveling Carnival, effectively. We may come back to Goss on our big trade loop, but I mean, Goss is kind of a safer system to build in. There's a military base there, so it's a slight step up from Stanton. But yeah, I mean, this thing just has gigantic target written all over it. Very cool ship. And again, like you were saying, absolutely necessary for anyone that kind of wants to do high level building. But wow.
I mean, I'm glad I know Knight. That's all I gotta say.
Everybody should have a Knight as a friend. Yeah, I was kind of hoping he'd jump in here and kind of give his 2 cents, but I'm going to definitely lock him down for the Polaris walkthrough. But yeah, so that's all I've got on these ships on the scroll. Anything else you guys want to say on the Pioneer?
Sort of. I kind of think that the ship is a little bit overhyped.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are really excited to get their hands on it, and it's going to be a really cool ship, and it does a lot of cool things. But my hot take that I don't think people are going to like, but they're going to find out, is you're going to bring it to your spot where you want to build. You're going to queue up everything, and then you're going to go, now what?
Yeah.
Oh, these ships and building materials are going to take 3.5 days to build. Well, I guess I'll go do something else. And the ship's just not going to have a whole lot of active proponents to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it's not going to be a ship like the Perseus or even the Polaris that you just pull and you go and you do some fun with. It's going to be the kind of thing that before you even pull the Pioneer, you're doing days, weeks, months of prep work to make sure that when you pull the Pioneer, it has everything it needs ready to go. And you might even be holding it in the hangar, pre-building parts before you ever even take off with it. And yeah, I could see it being the kind of ship that is very appealing to players that are not in this game yet. I mean, not to a large degree, like people that are really good or are really happy with those city builder games, that they're not playing Star Citizen now because they're like, well, it's a first person shooter combat game. Why would I play that? But yeah, I could see it being very appealing. And there are a couple people I have in mind that all pull on once building is in, specifically because that is the kind of gameplay that they love.
Yeah, this ship just screams to me, and I don't know the actual name of it, but it screams to me the StarCraft Terran base.
Oh, yeah.
You just slop it down and click a few buttons, and it
just
builds stuff.
Pushes stuff out the door. Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. Yeah, like the StarCraft where all the Terran buildings could take off.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's basically what this is. It's one of those base buildings that just takes off.
Right.
That's really funny.
That is pretty funny.
CIG is so good at making and selling ships that I'm really fighting the urge to melt some stuff and go get one of these at IAE, assuming they sell it. And that's my take on the on the Consolidated Outland Pioneer.
Yeah, that is pretty solid. And the only reason I haven't melted as much as necessary to grab was because I was best man at Knight's wedding and we're really good friends in real life. So yeah, that's the only reason I don't have one of my own, is because there's one more or less in the family. So ships that they didn't talk about, which are interesting, is the Crusader Intrepid. They mentioned it briefly on these are the ships from last year thing, but then they didn't have it on the side scroll. They didn't talk about it
in the IAE.
They did show it on that video, didn't they? Yeah, let's see if I can find that.
Just a shot of the engines, but it's in there.
Yeah, it was when they were doing
We'll be seeing that in a couple of weeks. No need to talk any more about it.
Yeah, no, it's coming soon. Supposed to have a big gun on the front. It's going to be kind of the smaller version of the Ares. So I think it has like a size 3 or 4 gun on the sort of asymmetric side as opposed to a size 7. So yeah, a light fighter version of the Ares is kind of what that's sounding like.
Really?
Kind of cool.
I've been hearing starter, so I was thinking like an Ares, like a slightly bigger than an Ares with a little, maybe like 24 or 32 SCU cargo.
Oh, it could be. Damn, maybe we do need to talk about that ship then. But no, I mean, that was starter would be awesome. Light fighter would be awesome because they don't have one in that category. Only other one that I am kind of looking forward to that we surprisingly, I was expecting to see some variants of this one drop at CitCon, but maybe we'll get them for IAE, is Atlas chassis variants. So not the driving vehicle that the Spartan, Centurion, all those guys are built on, but the actual walker. In lore and in concept images for other ships in the background, there's been Atlas chassis that operate in the vacuum in 0G that are doing salvage. Presumably they could do mining, maybe building, but we know the Titan suit is out there that's built on the same thing. So there's a lot of variants of that suit that are out there. And now that we have a working model, I was kind of surprised that we didn't see one drop for this, but I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think we'll see more of them in the game. The first one dropped so recently. There's not a whole lot of use for them in other loops except combat thus far in the game, and I'm sure they want to tighten stuff up on it before they put a big gun on it.
Yeah, I think Squadron 42 will drop before we get the Titan. I could see a Salvager drop. We were talking about mining, but what would mining do that
you can't with a rock? Right.
That it would be kind of superfluous, but the Salvager would kind of make sense. Or a 0G version to help out with the Hull C or something like that.
Yeah,
I could see that. But other than that, guys, we got through all the side scrolls. So, I mean, good chat for the, 3rd or 4th time now that we had it.
No.
Professional. Don't
show them how the sausage is made, Don.
But it's such a good sausage. I mean, not Starlancer sausage.
Wait, are we talking about the whole C now?
Probably. Good God. Yeah. It looks like a giant. Anyway.
Sausage.
There you go. But yeah, that's all I got for this one. You guys got any closing remarks? Anything you want to talk about that we didn't bring up here?
We've talked a bit about org gameplay in this discussion, and speaking of orgs, if you happen to be a small group or an individual and you want to be in an org but have the freedom to play your way, you should look in the down below section of this video because there will be some information on the Carnival.
Thank you for the plug on that. Yeah, one of our taglines for our org is we've got the ships, but we need the people. Like, I plan on flying around in a Banu Merchantman. I'm not one of those people that's delusional enough to think that I'm going to be able to command an entire fleet with blades. I specifically bought ships for the org for other people to move around in. So yeah, if you're just a person in a starter Aurora, don't worry, you are the kind of person we're looking for. So I will echo Scarlett on that.
Yeah, please join. I unspecifically bought extra ships and now need people to fly them.
It's the Star Citizen way. But yeah, gang, that's all I got for this one. Ghost, you want anything you want to close out with?
No, thanks for watching, guys.
Yep, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, all that junk, and catch me next time.